issues voters care about. Where does Trump go? Migrant crime, carjackings, the really lurid, awful stuff that is a crazy, crazy visual. Don't take the bait, because most Americans are more worried about how are we going to address mental health issues, the visible homelessness that we see on streets, and how do we deal with mental health and other issues that drive the sort of random incidents that scare all of us. That's what you should be talking about. That's where you should be focused. Don't take the bait in talking about migrant crime or carjackings or the things that actually don't matter to that many Americans. And then go to the...
Boy. So we got to talk about the dumpster fire that is the Democrat Party that should probably be studied in political textbooks, because I don't think I've ever seen a party that is in this much of a free fall. I don't think I've ever seen a political party so down bad as the Democrats right now. I mean, their approval rating is at a historic low. Their fundraising is at a historic low. Their party registration is at a historic low, especially in the states that really count. Like, for example, the swing states. Yeah, Democrats are literally losing voters while Republicans are gaining voters.
Look, the Democratic brand right now has about the appeal with the American voter as the Cracker Barrel rebrand has with the American consumers. Bad. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness gracious. What are we talking about here in terms of big party registration changes in the key swing states? Let's look at the key 4 swing states that, in fact, do keep track of registration by party. Look, the Republican Party is in their best position at this point in the cycle since at least 2005, in all 4 of these key battleground states. We go out to the Southwest, Arizona. How about Nevada? Republicans haven't done this well since 2005. Oh, my goodness gracious, at this point in the cycle. North Carolina, I couldn't find a point at which Republicans were doing better at this point in the cycle. It's at least this century. It probably goes way back in the last century. And Pennsylvania, very similar. Republicans doing better at this point than at any point this century, at least as far as I could find. Now, what types of gains are we talking about here for the Republican Party? Well, let's compare it to this point during the first Trump administration all the way back in 2017. Look at this. The Republican Party gains in party registration compared to this point back in 2017 during the Trump first administration. In Arizona, you got a Republican gain of 3 points. Okay, how about Nevada? Up the hill we go, even though we're sticking in the Southwest. A gain of 6 points. How about, again, we come to the East Coast, North Carolina, a gain of 8 points for the Republicans. And in the Keystone State, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, again, we're talking about a gain of 8 points. My goodness gracious, for Republicans, they are converting old former Democrats to their side of the ledger, as well as picking up new voters, registering new voters, and it absolutely paid off for them back in the 2024 election.
While there are still more Democrats registered nationwide than Republicans, though they point out that's simply because in states like California, you can register by party, whereas in a lot of red states, you can't. So that's even questionable. They say, nonetheless, for the first time since 2018, more new voters nationwide chose to be Republicans than Democrats last year. Of the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one between 2020 and 2024, and often by a lot. That 4-year swing toward the Republicans adds up to 4.5 million voters, a deep political hole that could take years for Democrats to climb out from. It goes on to say all 4 presidential battleground states covered by the Times analysis, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, all of them showed significant Democratic erosion. In North Carolina, Republicans erased roughly 95% of the registration advantage that Democrats held in the fall of 2020. They quote Michael Pruser, who tracks voter registration closely as the director of data science for Decision Desk HQ, an election analysis site, quote, I don't want to say the death cycle of the Democratic Party, but there seems to be no end to this. There is no silver lining. There is no cavalry coming across the hill.
Yeah, like I've been saying, the Democrats are on life support, right? And if you want to know why they're on life support, why is it a party is dying, look no further than the woke DNC summit in Minnesota, in which you can see right? You can clearly see why Democrats are a laughingstock. Why is it that nobody wants to be associated with the Democrat Party? I think that the answer to that question is pretty obvious. Take a look.
Nobody likes interventions, but sometimes they're necessary. Democrats just staged one in Tampon's backyard. Before the party started, the DNC accused Tampon of stealing Pocahontas's property.
Her name is Lindy Somick, who is from the Saginaw Ojibwe Nation, and she's going to deliver our land acknowledgement today. Lindy.
Bonjour, Lindy Somick, Nindiginicaz, Amik Saginaw Chippewa Dojaba, Anishinaabe Kwe, and Dow. Let's talk about the land for a second. The DNC acknowledges and honors the Dakota Oyate, the Dakota people, who are the original stewards of the lands and waters of Minneapolis.
They said the land is stolen, but aren't giving it back. After the land apology, it was a lecture on love.
Love is often seen as a feeling or an idea, but love is action. When neighbors are oppressed, silenced, or hurt, we must act in love. Being a neighbor both breaks my heart and keeps it beating.
Democrats love everybody except Republicans, Christians, and cops. Other than that, though, it is Love Island. But the love didn't last long. DNC Chair Ken Martin ditched the hugs and reached for the knife.
I'm sick and tired of this Democratic Party bringing a pencil to a knife fight. We cannot be the only party that plays by the rules anymore. We've got to stand up and fight. We're not going to have a hand tied behind our back anymore. Let's grow a damn spine and get in this fight, Democrats.
The message is spreading. Listen to this guy running for Senate at the Bernie rally.
We don't back down. We don't back down. We don't back down. With all due respect, if they go low, we don't go high. We take them to the mud and choke them out.
He must mean a mostly peaceful choke. Back at the convention, Tampon was the headliner.
The privilege of my lifetime was stand beside someone we know was the most qualified and would have been a fantastic president in a President Harris. And look, we wouldn't wake up every day to a bunch of on TV and a bunch of nonsense, not a man-child crying about whatever's wrong with him. May his fat ankles find something today. Petty as
Then Timmy got triggered by the red hats again.
Think of how easy it would be to be a damn Republican. Oh, what should I wear today? This stupid freaking red hat. What should I say today? I don't know. Just make sure it's cruel. Who do we listen to? That guy. Oh, the felon in the White House? Yeah, listen to him and that will be fine. Now he's talking about burning flags. He's going to have flag burning or whatever. Because he knows there's a hell of a lot of flags with his picture on it that are going to get burned.
The only flag Waltz loves is the rainbow one. And of course, Democrats tripled down on trans.
We'll sue them 44 more and 44 more after that. And we have sued them for gender-affirming care. Yes, we are not going to scapegoat our transgender community.
These interventions never work. Democrats always relapse. They're at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, they never work. The interventions never, ever, ever work. We have Democrats with their lowest approval rating ever. Their party is hemorrhaging voters. They're losing money. They don't have money. The DNC is broke. And at one of their summits, right, one of their local conventions, their anti-Trump rallies, they're bragging about defending gender-affirming care for children. Okay, sex change operations for children. This is what they're defending, right? At one point, you had an individual talk about how you shouldn't worry about crime. Carjackings and crime by illegal immigrants, not that big of a deal. You have Democrats doing land acknowledgments that the land of Minneapolis was stolen, right? These are the Looney Tunes that are running the Democrat Party. Is it any real question as to what's the problem, why they're struggling, why they can't recover? And here's the crazy part. They know it, right? They all know that, yeah, our party's too woke. This is why they were allegedly being advised to stop using these woke dog whistles, right? This is what they were told by one of their liberal advisors, which apparently is a strategy that some of the Democrats have already adopted.
Okay, so a new memo has been released telling the Democrats which words they should stop using if they want people to listen to anything that they have to say. The list was put together by Third Way, as Cenk said, and they're a left-center think tank. So what are the words that they're advising to stop using? You can probably already guess some of them. They span 6 categories, from therapy speak to explaining away crime, and put in sharp relief a party that authors say makes Democrats sound like the extreme, divisive, elitist, and obfuscatory enforcers of wokeness. In the document titled, "Was It Something I Said?" Third Way argues that to please the few, we have alienated the many, especially on culture issues where our language sounds superior, haughty, and arrogant, according to the memo. Among the blacklisted terms are privilege, violence, as in environmental violence, dialoguing, triggering, othering and microaggression, holding space, body shaming, subverting norms, systems of oppression, cultural appropriation, the Overton window, existential threat to the climate and democracy and the economy, radical transparency, stakeholders, the unhoused, food insecurity, housing insecurity, person who immigrated, birthing persons, cisgender, dead naming, heteronormative, patriarchy, LGBTQIA+, BIPOC, allyship, incarcerated people, involuntary confinement. So that's the list. Lene Erickson, Third Way's senior vice president, emphasized that this effort is not about censorship. It's about speaking in a way that doesn't prioritize jargon or immediately alienate people who might otherwise be willing to listen to your message. So Erickson said, the Democratic Party brand is toxic across the country at this point, with way too many people, enough that there's no way for us to win a governing majority without changing that. Part of the problem was that we were using words that literally no normal people used, that we were sticking to messages that were so overly scripted that they basically sounded like nothing. We need to reflect on the ways that our bubble and our fear of being criticized by anyone on the left has led to a problem with both our policy and our language. So is anyone already doing this well? Well, according to Erickson, she suggested that Democrats should take their cues from these 3, former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona, and Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. Senator Gallego seems to be on the right track with this, as he is rumored to be looking at a 2028 presidential run. And by the right track, he really does seem to be on the right-leaning track, that is, as he is shifting further right, and he has done since being elected as Arizona senator, which sounds like a familiar path for Arizona senators. So,
yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. Okay, Democrats are being told stop using woke dog whistles, right? Stop using terms like BIPOC and Latinx, which I feel like is like the bare minimum, right? I could have said that like 3 years ago, okay, and gave Democrats that advice. I wonder how much money they paid this think tank to tell them that water's wet, right? I mean, they could have gave me that $1 million plus they probably gave that think tank to come up with ways to fix the Democrat Party, right? But again, I don't think that reframing from woke dog whistles is going to be enough, because the base of the Democrat Party is full of far left radical lunatics, right? Who are going to force Democrats to use these woke dog whistles. They're going to force Democrats to acknowledge that they're in bed with socialists. Like, for example, David Hogg here on MSNBC is going to respond to the suggestion that Democrats stop using these woke dog whistles. But more so than anything, what, again, the radicals want is for Democrats to completely bend the knee to the socialists of the party, like, for example, Zoran Mandami. So without further ado, let's get into it.
We've learned in recent days that across a number of states, Democrats are hemorrhaging voters, not adding the new voters that they should be, really losing to Republicans on that front. We also have learned from the center-left think tank Third Way, they have this list of words they want the party to stop using, like triggering, food insecurity, unhoused, LGBTQIA. I'm curious what you make of these sort of movements and revelations of the last several days, and whether you think this is the right way for the Democratic Party to kind of refocus itself. Should they be focused on language and the words that they use and their messaging right now, or is there something else that will kind of get them back into communities and sort of seen as legitimate to the voters who they haven't served?
Look, focusing just simply on our words and our semantics is something that helps to distract. It helps Donald Trump because it distracts from the fact that he ran on two things. He ran on the fact that he was going to release the Epstein list, which he has not done in all likelihood because he's on it. And he ran on the idea that he was going to lower prices, which he has not done. And he has done thing after thing after thing to create distraction after distraction after distraction. There's a reason why there's so many National Guard in Washington, D.C. right now and more cities around the country. It's not to fight crime. It is ordered to create a distraction from our criminal of a president. And then the other thing is for groups like Third Way, of course they want us focused on words. They want us to continue the messaging debate that has been going on for longer than I have been alive in this party, because they know that we can change our messaging, because that doesn't actually change the system. And what we need to provide voters to win them back is an actual vision of what is the Democratic Party doing to fight for you and fight against the special interests and using the government to fight against those special interests that have ruined so many of their lives and made it so hard for them to achieve just a small part of the American dream in the first place. We need substance and not just debates over our semantics over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the problem with this, David Hogg. Democrats don't have any substance. They haven't done anything. They had 4 years to make the lives of the American people better, and they didn't do it, right? They made it worse. So, yeah, that's the problem. Democrats can't run on something they don't have, right? That's the issue. That's the issue.
David, I always say whenever it's called a comms problem, it's always a policy problem at the end of the day. And so here, though, let's listen to Representative Hakeem Jeffries this morning and how tongue-twisted he is when it's talking about NYC mayoral candidate Zoran Mondami.
I don't think we've withheld an endorsement. We are engaging in a conversation about the future of New York City, about the issues that need to be addressed, particularly the housing crisis. These are all issues to be worked through, and we'll continue to work through them. As I mentioned, we're sitting down next week.
So, David, that actually might be a comms problem because Jeffries just can't seem to give an answer.
Yeah, it's not. It is not a complicated question. Are you going to endorse the Democratic nominee for the city that you represent part of, or are you not? It is not rocket science. Are you going to endorse him or are you not? Are you going to say that we're going to be a big tent in this party? Because guess what? A big tent has a left side and a right side. And you can't just support one side when it's convenient and not the other, because that is how a tent collapses at the end of the day. And I think it is a much simpler question. And at the end of the day, it's one that he needs to answer. The American people are craving, and Democrats too, are craving clear answers from their politicians, not essays of, there's all this parliament. Just give us a damn answer. It's not complicated.
Why isn't he not answering it? Why do you think he doesn't answer that question, David? Give it to us straight. Like, why does he not answer that question? It's not because of apartments and socialism and that fear. Why does he not want to answer that question as simply as you just outlined?
Well, I think there's a room for a longer conversation about that. But ultimately, I think a major part of it has to do with serious disagreements that he has with him over Israel-Palestine at the end of the day. I think that is probably the biggest part of it, if I had to make a guess, because groups in this town, I'll tell you right now, what a lot of people will not tell viewers on this channel that I'm not afraid to say is, in conversations about congressional races, you know what the three most common questions that I hear are when people talk about who to support in the race? It is, what is AIPAC doing? What is crypto doing? And what was their last quarter's fundraising? That is 90% of the conversations that are happening in this town. And people like Hakeem Jeffries are terrified to talk about that because they are afraid of a lot of those groups because they have tons of money. But the answer is, if everybody behaves that way, we're never actually going to rebuild a better government that stands up to special interests and stands up for the American people.
Yeah, so the Democrat Party is in disarray, right? What David Hogg is talking about here is the infighting between Democrats and the fact that the leader of the Democrats in the House can't endorse the Democrat candidate for mayor out in New York City over the Israel-Gaza issue, even though I'm not entirely sure that is the issue, right? I don't think that is, I don't know, the big answer. Maybe that is, maybe it's not. I do actually believe that Hakeem Jeffries is trying to make a calculated decision of not openly endorsing somebody that has said that they support socialism, right? That they're a socialist, okay? I mean, that is a huge step for the leader of the Democrats in the House to take, right? To openly endorse a full-blown socialist, right? It's one thing to have socialists, that is in your caucus or whatever, okay? I mean, you can distance yourself from those people, okay? But when you talk about endorsing somebody that is currently the candidate to be the mayor of New York City, that is something that Hakeem Jeffries definitely doesn't want to take lightly. But I do agree with the criticism of this guy never answering the question, right? If he doesn't want to endorse Zohran Mamdani, then he should just say exactly why he doesn't want to do it, whether it be because of Israel and Gaza or because of Zohran's socialist beliefs, right? Democrats, I would like to see them get a leader that openly stands up to the socialism, that openly stands up to the far left lunacy on social issues. If they can find a masculine leader that actually will do that, then maybe the party has hope. But who knows at this point? I'm not even sure if that will work because that person would never win a primary, right? It would never win a primary due to the fact that a majority of Democrat voters are lunatics, right? So when it comes down to the general election, Democrats likely are going to be running a lunatic, right? They're going to be running a lunatic in a general election. And if that's the case, then it makes it likelier that they're gonna lose, right? And that's a huge issue for Democrats right now. And I just don't think they can thread this needle, right? I just do not think they can thread this needle. And up until this point, they haven't done so. They haven't even come close, right? In fact, the more they try to thread the needle, the worse that it gets. At some point, maybe the Democrats should do a clean break, right? They should just do a clean break from the radical lunatics if they want to save their party. But they're not going to do that, right? They're not going to do that. The socialists are going to win. They're going to take over. It's not about if, it's about when, right? How long can Democrats hold on until their party is completely taken over by the radical lunatics? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.